subscribe to my channel because 2 people unsubscribed whilst I was away sick. The audacity, really fucking rude. Hi. Hi, it's me. I'm not gonna lie, I've kind of just been through hell the last few weeks. So this is what I've been going through. We love that chronic illness vibes. Yeah, we're still at a point where it's kind of not entirely sorted, but I feel like we're mostly out the other side of all the tests and twists and turns that I went through. So here is that video for you to explain where the fuck I've been, what has been going on. Hi pals. It's me, Artie, they them pronouns. I missed last week because how did I feel? Shit. And I feel a bit better at the moment, but not perfect. For a start, I got fucking dry lips. And I have the most disgusting taste in my mouth. Thanks to my, my antibiotics. My antibiotics. So I'm working on like a longer, in-depth blog post too. But I thought I would just make a video as well, seeing as I do a lot of talking about chronic conditions and blah 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 on YouTube. I have been feeling not great for a while, probably going on like 7-8 weeks, maybe a little bit more. Like right before I started my ADHD medication, my whole jaw thing happened, which has made everything really sucky for its own reasons. It's kind of calming down a little bit, but it did wake me up last night in the middle of the night, so I had to take cocodamol to go back to sleep. I was also having these chest pains that I have basically realised is linked to my hypermobility syndrome, because since then I've not had any chest pain. I've only had chest pain related to breathing, more specifically now. But yeah, so like with all that being hell, I just started to feel really run down, like more than usual, babes. Like my usual levels for everything just severely either reduced or increased. You know, like my pain increased, but my ability to do things without fatiguing myself really decreased, and then my fatigue really increased at that kind of vibe. And yeah, I just felt like complete shit. I was having squeaking with deep breaths for a little while, which I had with pleurisy a few years ago. So I wondered if it might be pleurisy. And then like deep breathing also hurt sort of my upper chest. So like a little bit below collarbone to like top of my neck. It would just hurt to breathe. And then sometimes I was getting throat pain that moved and sinus pain briefly for a second that went away again. And it's been difficult trying to work out what's been going on, because obviously I've had quite a few things just happen all at once. 2 of them I think quite clearly linked to hypermobility or HGDS, we don't know. I think I have HGDS, but they don't wanna listen, so you know, vibes. Yeah, that's the other thing as well. Another hypermobility thing, my shoulder slipped. Like my shoulder just kind of slipped out of place, wasn't feeling right. So I was also just having pains because my fucking shoulder was like screwed up. Thanks. Sick. I love this. But I was just basically finding I couldn't do anything without like completely exhausting myself right away. Often for like hours, if not the rest of or the entire day. So I spent a lot of time in bed, to be honest. I started to get a bit more concerned when I started coughing. I've had an appointment booked for my doctor for a while, but he is busy because he's good at his job. So like I was coughing for a week before I got to see him. I did COVID test on that Monday, and then the Monday I had the appointment and both were negative. My symptoms just kept changing and moving, so it's been really difficult for me to even feel like I have been able to accurately describe what I've been dealing with. For the last, I think I've kind of been dealing with this for like at least 3 weeks now. I was nauseous. I don't know which way I'd say this. I change my mind all the time. But like, I just felt sick all the time. I like food smells, wanted to die. If any kind of extra flavour was added into food, like herbs or whatever, wanted to die, wanted to puke on my feet. Like, I had a very, very narrow selection of food that I felt I could consume, because then we have the fun of Crohn's, autism, and this sickness I'm dealing with all fighting each other over what I can eat. So that has sucked a lot. And like that, it got really bad at one point where like even trying to hydrate was making me feel sick. I was like, what am I supposed to do here? All I'm good at is drinking water. Speaking of drinking water, I have a tiny bit left here, so I'm gonna drink some because I have this awful taste in my mouth. Pardon me. Everything has been really awful. It was kind of lucky that this happened during my titration for ADHD medication, because I have to do my blood pressure and check my heart rate at least once a week. Resting as well. It's like normally first thing in the morning before I've really done anything. And like the Friday before my appointment with my GP, my heart rate had crept up by like 10 points. So I was in the 90s. My prescribing nurse mentioned that he's concerned about that number. So I then sort of offered like, okay, well, I am quite happy to maybe do my blood pressure and heart rate every morning for the next week. You know, if you're concerned about it, I'm quite happy to put more work into just monitoring throughout the week. Because honestly, so many things can change my blood pressure and heart rate so easily. Pain I've been in could really raise both blood pressure and heart rate for me. Anxiety does the same thing. So yeah, I was like, you know, I don't mind tracking it more often to be able to like give you more of like a clearer overview of my week. Blah blah blah. But I was still like in the mid-90s. Then I went to see my GP, and my heart rate also always rises in any kind of medical situation, but also I think I may have something like POTS. We've been aware of my heart rate raising or being a lot higher in medical settings for a long time, so that's another reason why I have a blood pressure and heart rate monitor at home, so I can say, yeah, whatever you're going to get in here is not going to be as accurate as me at home in bed, my dude. Yeah, he checked. My heart rate was 120. But I did say, I was like, actually, it has been higher than usual anyway. Even at home, both Friday and this morning were in the mid-90s when I'm at least, like maximum, I'm in the mid-80s. Like I normally vary between 70 and like 85-ish. I feel like I didn't really do a great job of explaining the symptoms I've been going through, because I definitely missed nausea, because I also went to check a mole that wasn't actually a mole and talk about my jaw, as well as talking about this infection, virus, bacterial, whatever. But he basically requested some blood tests to be done. I was like, cool, fine. I can get some other blood tests done as well then that are like coming up to being due for my other doctors, even though most of them ask for like the same levels, but sometimes they ask for another thing or two. So I was like, fine. I had quite a lot going on in this week though. That Wednesday I spent a couple of hours out of my house because I had to get some things done in town. But whilst I was there, I also picked up things like Lucozade. Good thing, because I nearly fucking killed over when I was out in town. Like, it was the first warm day we've had, and I felt like shit. I genuinely felt like The Walking Dead, my dude. Like, I did not feel like I was alive. Thursday was when I had the blood test, and I was not feeling good. I was supposed to drive myself, but yeah, I knew I was not doing a great job of doing my usual like blood draw routine sort of thing. I made a whole video on that if you want to see, but like, I did not feel capable of doing a lot of the arm exercises I normally do. Again, like I said, I've been struggling to drink water. That morning, my heart rate got to like 125 at one point. I was like, I can tell. I could see my heart beat like pulsing in my stomach. I could see it. It was weird. I didn't like it. But I was like, I am not feeling good. Yes, I had to get a lift to my blood test because I did not feel well enough to drive myself in the end. Thankfully, it was relatively quick, and my usual healthcare assistant is very good at getting blood out of me. She had to ask me to do some things that I don't normally need to do for these appointments, like, you know, pumping your hand. It was a bit more painful than it has been, but luckily, yeah, the blood came out okay. And the bruise wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be either. I felt better the next day. Like, I felt less like a zombie, okay? It wasn't amazing still, but like, better. But then my doctor called me, and my inflammatory levels were very raised, which sets off my heart rate again. Anxiety and trauma. My ESR was 109 and my CRP was 68. When I've been in sort of the normal or healthy or whatever range for, I don't even know how long now, maybe a year. And that was bad. I think my answer was, oh, good, I am so glad. Tell me without telling me that your trauma response is dark humour. So my GP also said that my white blood cell count was normal, which normally means that there's no infection. So he suggested I don't do my adalimumab injection, which I was about to do that day, because he thinks it might have had an effect on the white blood cell count, like maybe it was suppressing the white blood cells. So I didn't have my injection on Friday, which is very anxiety inducing as well, because, you know, the more often you have to miss it, the less protection you have from the autoimmune diseases flaring or your body sort of becoming resistant to that. I actually think this is probably the first time in like very close to 2 years I've actually had to skip one. I don't think I've skipped one ever, but I felt so sick during this week that I was like, okay, there's something seriously wrong. So if laying off this for a week is gonna, one, possibly help me heal a bit faster, and two, help clarify some of my blood tests that I'll probably get redone this week, then, you know, I got to do it. And then he also put me on antibiotics, which is why I have a disgusting taste in my mouth. Every time I take one of them, my mouth just tastes bad for hours. It's disgusting. I hate it. But yeah, so I started those on Friday when I think he was planning me to start them on Saturday. He sent them to a local pharmacy who were just so good and on it that they were just ready. They were ready. So my mum went and picked them up at lunchtime. I took one then, and then I took one in the evening. But yeah, I sort of said to him, like, this is why I did come to see him, is that I was concerned that actually this might either be or become a bacterial infection rather than just like a virus, which you can't really do much for. And my last cold I made a video about, and it was like basically nothing happened to me. Otherwise, I felt normal, but this time I felt like death, you know? So it's been quite a scary experience. Yeah, I just felt really rough. Antibiotics also just are not fun on your stomach. But Saturday, I kind of just sat in the sun and in like the fresh air for a while, and I think that really helped me feel a bit better. I think Friday, Saturday, Sunday have been the days I've eaten more normally again, or at least like I've eaten a more normal amount, because I've not been eating much at all. And yeah, Saturday was the first day I didn't spend all day in bed. I was actually downstairs all day, still laying down, but like, you know, first time sort of being out of my room and feeling able to be out of my room. Mother's Day was yesterday when I'm recording this, and I felt really good. I felt way better than I have been feeling. I actually was able to do things without this extreme fatigue reaction happening right away. It was more like my usual levels of fatigue. Sunday was when I first started to feel the effects of the antibiotics on my stomach. Like clockwork, I know it's gonna happen. Heart rate was still up between like 100 and 110, but then in the evening, I think I'd sort of rested for longer, and it had come back down into the 90s again, which is better than it's, you know, it's sort of been a bit higher. I'm feeling okay, not awful, not amazing, a bit more at my normal level for how I feel. The cough isn't so bad. I do kind of have a sore throat, but I don't know. And like I said, my sinuses are being kind of weird. That a lot of those things started when I didn't have my injection on Friday. I don't know, I've been able to eat a bit more normally, more food. The Lucozade helps as well, because I was kind of getting sweats sometimes, but it's gotten a lot better. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, mostly today I've been on Twitter because of the Oscars, and I'm supposed to be going to a wedding Saturday. I'll be finishing my antibiotics on Thursday, I'm pretty sure, because I got a week's worth. I do feel a lot better, which is suspicious, you know? Like, I don't want to be too settled on the idea that the inflammation is only this infection, in case it isn't and I have to deal with other things, you know? I am hopeful I will feel well enough to go to this wedding at the weekend and be allowed to have a few drinks. But also, I'm preparing for not being able to go. Yeah, I've got a doctor's appointment just after my mum finishes work. We'll see how that goes. And then I suppose we'll see a lot of things on my mind at the moment with everything. So that's kind of like what I know so far. So I'll talk to you later. The blood tests are worse than last week. Was feeling better, but they're still worse. I think both have gone up by about 10 points, both inflammation markers. I'm told to go to hospital tomorrow morning for SDEC, get some more tests done. He said bloods too, and I was like, no, no, I'm not being stuck any more times, especially not by people I do not know and who do not know me. They can have an x-ray in a urine sample, but that's, you know, no, nothing else. Nothing else involves sticking me with anything. So I've started self-medicating a low-dose steroids of 3 milligrams, just to hope that'll do anything. Even if it's just to help me feel more stabilised, I guess. And I want to do my adalimumab injection tomorrow, because I feel like being off that for a week, because I'm a weekly injector, probably didn't help the inflammation markers. I don't know, currently the only signs I'm sort of dealing with are sometimes wheeziness, painful bloating is starting to come back after certain meals or at certain times. My chest sometimes hurts. The fatigue's a bit better. The sore throat has kind of gone away. But like tomorrow, the only rheumatologist around is the one that I despise, who is and has been the most unhelpful trash human. So, you know, don't have the most confidence in anything she might be saying or suggesting. But my rheumatologist is not in on Fridays. Like, I only just got off steroids. I've been on them nearly 2 years and I just got off them, and I'll probably given myself some, but I'll probably be put back on them too. Just so tired. Tired of this. I'm tired of always being scared. Shit. I don't want to do this anymore. I've already been struggling mentally with stuff just generally. It's just so hard existing and carrying on when everything just sucks all the time. I was sort of starting to be a bit excited because the ADHD medication was really helping me. I've not taken that for a couple of days as well, because I don't even know what to do. And I don't know how long I'll be stuck there for either. If it's not too bad, then maybe a few hours, but if it's bad, all day. I just want to feel safe for once. I was doing really well. I was doing okay. You know, like, not perfect, but like really well considering it compared to where I've been. And I'm just... It's hard not to take it all personally, you know. It's like, why is it me who has to do this? I'm 27. I'm just so tired of all this. I'm probably having to miss this wedding. I'm scared this is gonna continue so long. I'll probably won't be able to go to this fucking gig I dream of going to for years. I've lost 2 years to the pandemic, and I lost 2 years prior to that to my chronic illness. Because I just can't do anything. Just want to enjoy myself. I want to not be worried about fucking turning a corner and then there's my fucking end. I wish I could exist without all this. So, after the crying clip, I basically just tried to distract myself that evening. I took 3 milligrams of steroids. And then in the morning, I took another 3 milligrams of steroids and went to SDEC, which is the SDEC stands for Same Day Emergency Care, except it's not always the same day, it's sometimes the day after, for more tests that my GP can't do, and hopefully to be seen by a rheumatologist. So the tests I had done were blood pressure, heart rate, ECG, and then just sat there for hours. I had nothing else done. Nobody spoke to us for hours. We were just there for ages. I straight up said to my GP the day before I was not going to have any more bloods taken. So luckily they actually did just leave me the fuck alone. They don't always do that. They tend to bother you and bully you into getting more bloods done. Luckily that did not happen. Right as we were about to leave, when our parking ticket was nearly up, a doctor came on shift who then took me into the side room to talk to me. Apparently the rheumatology team had asked him to give me a once over for them, and it's like, okay, couldn't one of the other people who's been walking around calling names of people who are not here done that in the 4 hours we've been sat here doing nothing? But yeah, he was very nice. He had a stutter, so in some ways I kind of also felt more comfortable because it was like a fellow disabled person speaking to me, and he seemed very nice and gave a shit. But also understood the dark humour that just comes with existing in this world. When you have everything that I have going on. Asked me a bunch of the same questions everyone's asked me. Asked a few more questions, like to do with my sexual history and stuff like that. And I was like, my dude, my sexual history is basically non-existent. I have been single for 4 years, and I mean actually single. I have not dated or slept around, okay? There is no possibility of the infection we think I might have had being a sexual one. But that, you know, that was fine. I was making those jokes of like, oh, yeah, you want to know if I'm pregnant? No. You want to know what my periods are doing? No, don't have any. And then he did some, you know, the typical like touching of like joints and stuff. And I was like, no, that's all fine, doesn't hurt. Like a lot of the symptoms I have been having had kind of gone away at this point, or minimized so much that they were more manageable now. Like I was far less nauseous and having less problems with actually eating food. I told him I'd been able to come off the steroids, and I was like, oh wow, amazing. But then I was like, I did go back on them yesterday after hearing about my blood results again, because that just felt like the right thing to do for me, was to start like a very low dose of steroids, because I feel like no one has really been able to give me much information or advice as of yet around what's happening, what to do. So I feel like, you know, a really low dose of steroids isn't going to do any harm to me and might hopefully help with the slow, hopeful decrease of my inflammatory markers, because they are very high. Apparently they were particularly concerned with the ESR levels being over 110. I think the last one was over 119. Yeah, so he was like, we'll send you for a chest x-ray just to check for any signs of possible chest infection. Urine test too, both came back clear very quickly, really. We were sat for waiting for a fucking x-ray for ages. But yeah, this doctor was like, I don't think this is an infection. He thinks it's more likely to be some kind of autoimmune flare. And you know, the one thing I sort of keep saying to my family is like, I was put on a week of antibiotics And I did feel better after a week of those antibiotics, and that doesn't just happen. You know, you don't just feel better when you're on antibiotics unless the antibiotics have actually done something. So I feel like there must have been some kind of bacterial infection that I may have picked up. Yeah, and then he was like, you know, you can go now. I've spoken to the rheumatology team, and they said, you know, you can carry on your low dose of steroids. They'll see you next Friday at the emergency clinic and you'll hear about it by text message. And I was like, okay, chill. That sounds good to me. And we got in the car, we were nearly home, and then I was getting a phone call and I was like, who's fucking phoning me? And it was a rheumatologist from the hospital I'd just been at saying, sorry I missed you. I just came down to see you and examine you. And we were like, it's 3:30 in the afternoon. And the doctor we were talking to said that you guys said I could go, but you came down to find me. What? This whole section like just really annoyed me, because then she was asking me all the same questions everyone else has been asking me. I'm like, I've literally told like 3 people, and I know it's in these files. Do I have to go through this again? So I did my best, because that's the thing, like the more often I'm asked to do or say something, the less likely I am to remember everything that I said to the last person to say to this next person. Like I had to take time out to write all this stuff out previously to then show like a completed list to my GP, because I was like, I realised I think I missed some stuff when I was talking to you, but I was a bit preoccupied and panicked. All of my tests came back normal that day. Even my ECG, it just showed that my heartbeat was like fast. It didn't show any kind of dysfunction. So, you know, we just went home with like, okay, this is probably like remnants of an infection, possibly verging into a vasculitis flare. I'd had the go-ahead for taking my adalimumab again, so I was like, yes, that's the first thing I'm gonna do when I get home, is stabby stab for the injection I'd missed the week before. So yeah, sorry, the phone call, I had to recount everything again, and it's difficult to explain a lot of this stuff to some of these doctors, because like she asked me, she was like, oh okay, so when you got to SDEC they checked your blood pressure in both of your arms, right? I'm like, no, why would they do that? They are SDEC. Why the fuck would they test my blood pressure and heart rate in both of my arms when they won't get a reading from one arm? When I was sat at home at one point, I used the like finger heart rate and oxygen monitor on my no BP arm, and like the statistics were like very bizarre. We are never able to get an actual reading for blood pressure on my arm, and nobody's ever told me, you know, if you end up in A&E or SDEC or whatever, tell them to check the blood pressure on both of your arms. Like, no one's ever told me to do that. All I know is the accurate reading is in my left arm and hand, so why would I tell them to do the other arm or tell them to do both? Like, we know the reading does not come up on the right arm. Is it going to magically come back one day? Unlikely, you know? So I was just like, no, why the fuck would they, why would they do that? Well, of course they didn't do that. You never came down to tell anyone to do that, so like, why the fuck would they? Yeah, and then she was like, no, we don't want you to be taking the steroids. We want to see if there's a trend happening, so we want you to do another blood test next week. I was like, okay, yeah. This is the next day when I'm recounting this, by the way, because I definitely needed a moment. I needed a moment. It being the next day, I decided to ignore pretty much everything they told me on the phone, not gonna lie, because they also said, no, you're not gonna come to the emergency clinic next Friday. We'll wait until your doctor's back from holiday on the 13th, which is basically 2 weeks, because that was also a hopefully we'll get you in, because I was supposed to see my rheumatologist in March, but she went on holiday then as well, and my appointment got moved to fucking June. So, you know, if I'd probably had that appointment, we might have caught this a little bit sooner. You know, the life of a consultant, I guess. you kind of just decide what week you're going on holiday, and then everyone who was booked in gets shafted 3 months down the line. This doctor in Estec was really shocked by that. I'm like, yeah, that just kind of happens with all of my consultants. Like, there was one point where I didn't like speak to my Crohn's consultant for like 8 months because everyone who was supposed to do the booking just kept fucking forgetting I exist and needed a follow-up at some point. I mean, like, I think I had a phone call with him in February, and I'm speaking to him again in May. So, you know, a lot more frequently than the rheumatologist. There we are. So yeah, I've decided to ignore what this lady on the phone was saying, because I feel like, you know, we want to see if there's a trend with if your inflammation goes up any higher. I'm like, I'm not a science experiment. I'm not here for you guys to study the trends of my inflammation levels and my well-being. I care more about my well-being, actually, funny enough, you know. Like I said before, I decided to put myself on the 3 milligram dose because, you know, it's very small but might have some positive impact, possibly help curb some of the intensity of the inflammation and help it come back down carefully, gently, slowly, rather than going on like a massive whopping dose and just being like, don't know what's happening, you know. So like, I just feel like, you know, I don't really want to be studied as a trend. I would rather not do that, because as well, they're like, oh, if you start feeling chest pains or pains in your arms and, you know, Takayasu stuff, go to A&E. I'm like, okay, and what are they doing? Where are the rheumatologists there? Where are the vascular surgeons there? Where's the specialist that I was referred to back in August and still have not even spoken to yet? Like, I don't want my, like, the life or death of my existence to be in the hands of people who have no idea what's happening. Like, you know, every chronically ill person will tell you A&E is fucking useless for flares of chronic illness. No one there is trained. They will have a random consultant of some kind on call, but only one, and they only have one specialty. Besides that, what are they going to do? Oh, give me IV steroids. They're going to give me steroids. Why don't I just beat them to it and give myself steroids before it gets to life or death, you know? This is the most energy and animation I've had in my physical body in a while, because I felt like shit, both mentally and physically. I've just not had any kind of mental anything to get there to do this, because every time I sit and talk to the camera, it wears me out so much still. Like, I said to someone, I think it was probably this rheumatologist, I was like, you know, I'm better than I was last week, like a lot better, but I still don't feel like I am pre whatever messed me up. I don't quite feel 100% because I was walking around town with my mum to get some stuff done, I think Thursday evening, and everything just suddenly like hit me. Everything hurt, like breathing, my chest, like I was just so worn out. I also stopped my ADHD meds partway through this week because they'd already said to me, the ADHD prescribing nurse was like, yeah, you know, I'm really worried that if your heart rate goes higher than the 90s, you know, I'd be concerned about this medication for you. So because my heart rate has been consistently going above 100, just for lols, yeah, I took myself off it, which I did already get prior confirmation that that would be fine if I needed to do that. And I sent an update email to them today because yesterday was so long, and like some of the lights in the hospital had killed my brain and my eyes. Sitting around like upright in chairs when my most comfortable position is horizontal, bitch, and having people speak to me and poke and prod me on and off for hours, whilst also then just leaving me alone for hours, what is just a lot to deal with all the time. For like, yeah, you know, that was like 8:30 till 3:30. What's that? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 7 hours. Like, the only thing I'm grateful for is that, yes, this rheumatologist lady is trying to get me into my usual rheumatologist slot clinic in a couple of weeks' time when she's back from holiday, which is, you know, probably the smartest thing anyone's said, but also, like, she's probably the only person who has the ability to do that. Like, I don't think my GP can just squeeze me into this women's clinic, you know? But, like, everything else was just like, shut up. You are saying things and they are stupid. They are stupid things. I've had enough of them. I have been getting some pains in my arm. Funnily enough, not my right arm, which is usually the one I get pain in. But if anything, that's more ominous that it's in my left arm, because that may be signs of damage occurring that way. So I may end up with similar or the same problems as I have with my right arm, which would make things difficult because I'm already using my left arm to try and make up for stuff that I can't do as much with my right. Yeah, and they're like, well, yeah, we want to send you there and see how you do before we decide on any further imaging and have another blood test. I'm like, my dude, all of my imaging involves being stabbed for contrast and radioactive sugar, water being shoved into my body. So, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I'm gonna do anything you tell me to do, because it's like, I'm not gonna lie, some of my triggers have been coming back. It's been getting difficult to just get through bloods and stuff, and like having a blood test 2 weeks in a row has been hard because like it sucks. Luckily, I have a very good phlebotomist who was able to use different veins in the same arm, because for some reason my left arm is not the greatest for blood tests. I don't know why, but the one with the narrowed artery is good for blood tests. Like, it's the best one. I don't know, just how it be. Yeah, that's this is what's so funny. Okay, so this lady on the phone was like, okay, you look between like the two hospitals, and I was like, if between you mean 10 minutes away from one and 45 minutes away from the other, then sure. She wanted me to come in to like the county, which is the one 45 minutes away with awful parking and awful traffic and roads, to come for a blood test. I was like, you're having a laugh, right? She was like, oh, would you be up for doing that? I was like, no. I was like, no, I would not. I'm not going all the way down there for a fucking blood test. Are you well? Like, I'm not well, but at least I can admit I'm not well. But I was like, what? So she asked me if I had any blood bags. I was like, yeah, I'm sure I have plenty of blood bags with the usual stuff that, you know, you want to check. Like, I'm not having any rando just jabbing me, which is also why I said no to Estec jabbing me. My one good phlebotomist, and then occasionally I'll branch out and allow other people to attempt a stabby stab, but like, I don't trust any of you. I do not trust any of you, because like every time I trust someone, I'm proven otherwise, you know, like, and like this is like something I've had to build and develop through realizing I'm chronically ill. I have certain boundaries that are just not negotiable, and those boundaries are especially around blood tests. When and where and with who and how often. No, if I can't get in with my phlebotomist, with my GP practice, you can shove it up your ass. Like once in a blue moon will I say, okay, I'll let someone else give it a go. Yeah, that, and also just having 95% of my appointments being at the closer hospital, because either I can take myself or someone can drop me in, or we can park easier, like the parking's easier. You know, I'd much rather know that at least at the end of a long day I have a 10-minute drive to get home. You know, those things. And then also like I keep like, I'm sure I've got other clips of me saying about this other rheumatologist that I don't want to be treated by, who keeps like being the person who asked what they should do with me. My one thing there is like, anyone but her, thanks. So, you know, yes, the person who rang me yesterday was somebody else, but also I was not a fan of like the choices that were made. So I will do what I think is best for my body. And I said to this aesthetic doc, because he was like, oh, here's the letter, it's also going to your GP, there's a lot of jargon in it, but like hopefully you'll be able to like understand everything else that's there. I was like, that's okay. I think at this point I basically have an honorary, why did I say that? Honorary medical degree. And he laughed and agreed that I probably do. Like, I probably know more about Takayasu's than even my rheumatologist I see, which is why I want to actually see the specialist at some point. But here we are, you know, like 6-7 months each back down the line. Still heard nothing from this man in London. Thanks very much. But yeah, we'll see. For now, the understanding is hopefully it was a minor flare triggered by an infection. Hopefully I will start to feel a bit more normal again, or keep progressively feeling better, and the remaining few symptoms I have will go away. My symptoms have been kind of broad and bizarre, but then also not too scary. Like, you know, I have a cough, and I'm bringing up gross stuff, soz. But you know, I'm not coughing up blood and shit like that, you know, stuff that really rings alarm bells. And my chest pain has mostly been more related to breathing or musculoskeletal problems than vascular. You know, I'm still keeping an eye on my heart rate at home with the little finger monitor. I've been trying a few of the at-home hacks, like vagus nerve things and whatever. Stuck my face in ice water. That hurts. Who? No, I'm not even gonna go there. You know, and I am just keeping an eye on it. It is slowly coming down. It hasn't gone back to normal, but we are more along 90 to 105, where I was sort of more around 110 to 120. And my normal is somewhere below 85. Also, like, a lot of these things can be directly impacted by just pain. Pain is inflammation, full stop. And pain and inflammation will cause your heart rate to rise, but also can affect your blood pressure. But my blood pressure stayed around the same. I feel like I have been in more pains, and I have had a lot more fatigue and other stuff going on that, you know, I'm not surprised my heart rate has been up, if it's fighting an infection or if it's just dealing with the pain that I'm in. So yeah, just keeping an eye on it at home. I have currently put my ADHD meds on pause. I did tell Esdec that I had started them and around when, but no one seems to think there's a link, thankfully. So yeah, I've just told them today I just want to pause it for a few weeks because my heart rate has been higher than the 90s, and I know that they were concerned about that anyway. And I just want to try and get to a point where I feel a bit better. So maybe in a couple of weeks I'll feel able to come back, and that I really appreciate the flexibility they have allowed for me in this process, because I was under the impression it was going to be a lot more strict and rigid, whereas actually, like, my prescribing nurse has been really understanding and really nice and really helpful with everything. So hopefully in a few weeks' time I'll be feeling better, my bloods will be better, and hopefully I'll be in maybe in the progress of getting back on ADHD medication, because I have noticed a difference, quite a big difference. Like, I think the number one thing that you notice is that I can't breathe through my nose. I miss being able to breathe through my nose. But like, yeah, the mental clarity, I miss her. I miss the motivation to be productive, but I also felt like, you know, having that underlying feeling was not helping me whilst I was feeling unwell and just needed to rest. So subscribe to my channel, because 2 people unsubscribed whilst I was away sick. Really fucking rude. Like this video, because the algorithm will probably really hate me now because I didn't post 2 weeks in a row. Leave a comment, because the algorithm hates me. Yeah, so this is just my general update of the last few weeks and what's been going on. I have been keeping updates on Instagram a bit more periodically than here because it's a bit easier. So you can follow my Instagram if you do want more regular updates on this and how I'm doing. Yeah, that's kind of just where we're at the moment. I might turn the ADHD video into a two-parter series because that's now got quite a few weeks of updates on so far, and apparently the titration period doesn't have a hard end. It's like I said, it's pretty flexible, which was a surprise to me, so I might post that so you can have some updates on what the ADHD medication stuff has been like for me. I'm not feeling great. I'm sure this is going to be a really fucking long video because so much happened. The tea, the drama. Thank you for getting this far and giving a shit about me. Buy my art because I'm poor and I have not been very well and probably won't be able to do much work of any kind whilst I'm still recovering too. So check out my links in the description box down below. And also you can donate to my coffee. So there you go. It's down to you. And I'll see you next week. Hopefully I will feel less like poop. Thanks, bye.